Let's start with another set of questions. That's the first question for the day. The simple Keynesian model. So the simple Keynesian model overstates the effect of increase in government spending by neglecting the necessary increase in interest rate and consequent decline in investment that accompany an increase in government spending. So the option A is correct. Because the Keynesian model does not incorporate the fact of crowding out of private investment due to increase in interest rates, thus reducing the overall impact of fiscal policy. That's why the Keynesian model, the simple Keynesian model, overstate the impact of increase in government spending. Now moving on to next question. When moving from GDP to GNP, one has to, so while calculating GNP from GDP, we have to add NFI, that is net factor income from abroad. We have to add foreign earnings of Indian residents and firms, and we have to subtract earnings by foreign residents and firms in India. So the correct answer should be option D, both A and C. Now 68 question. In the simple Keynesian model, we have given the equilibrium income 300. We have given the MPC 0.75 and the government expenditure increases by 20 billion. We have to calculate the new equilibrium level of income. So for this, we know the formula. We can calculate change in income through this. Change in income, we get 80, and we can calculate the new equilibrium income by adding the change in income to the original income. That is 300 plus 80, we get 380. So the correct answer should be option B. Now this question. In the liquidity trap case where the LM schedule is nearly horizontal. So when the LM schedule is nearly horizontal, the monetary policy becomes ineffective because any increase in monetary policy is simply absorbed into idle balances without further lowering interest rates or stimulating investment. So monetary policy is ineffective while the fiscal policy is very effective. The IS curve moves towards the right and we have seen the output increases from Y to Y naught. So the monetary policy is ineffective, but fiscal policy is effective. Correct answer should be option C. 70th question. Monetary policy. So monetary policy will be more effective the higher the interest elasticity of investment and thus flatter the IS schedule. So the interest elasticity of investment measures how much investment spending changes in response to change in interest rate. If investment spending is highly sensitive to interest rate, a given change in interest rate will lead to larger change in investment and thus a larger impact on aggregate demand and output. Also, a flatter IS curve implies higher elasticity of investment. A small change in interest rate leads to large change in income through its effect on investment. Therefore, monetary policy is more potent when the IS curve is flatter. So the correct answer should be option B. Now, the main decision for a profit maximizing perfectly competitive firm is not what price to charge but what level of output to produce. Option B. Because in a perfectly competitive market, individual firms are price takers. They face a perfectly elastic demand curve at market price. Therefore, they cannot influence the market price. Their main decision is to determine the optimum level of output to produce where marginal cost equals to the market price to maximize its profits. Moving on to the next question. Molly the monopolist faces an elastic demand curve. If she decreases price, the marginal revenue will be positive and total revenue will rise. So let's see how. So when demand is elastic, that is the elasticity of demand is greater than 1. That is the percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in price. Percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than percentage change in price. So when a monopolist decreases the price on the elastic portion of demand curve, the increase in quantity sold is proportionately larger than the decrease in price. This leads to increase in total revenue. Also, marginal revenue is positive when total revenue is increasing. So correct answer should be A. So now the 73rd question, consumer surplus is. So consumer surplus is less in case of single price monopoly than in case of perfectly competitive industry. Because in case of monopoly, the producer has control over prices. Now moving on to the next question. 74. Compared to a competitive industry, the monopoly transfers consumer surplus to producers. Option A. The reason is same because of the monopolist ability to charge a price above marginal cost, and restrict output allows it to capture some of the consumer surplus that would have existed under perfect competition. The last question for the day. Firms in an oligopoly are independent of each other's action. Wrong. They are interdependent on each other. They can influence the market price, that's right. They charge a price equal to the marginal revenue. This is not necessarily true. Sometimes they do charge, but their pricing strategies are complex and depend on the anticipated reactions of the rivals. So this is also wrong, not always true. So second only, the correct answer should be option C.